Okay, so what we're looking at here, and by we, I mean you, I'm staring at a green wall, is the U.S. national debt visualized in bill form. How much is U.S. national debt? Something like $21.5 trillion, and keeping, we just keep adding to it. It's so big that it dwarfs the Statue of Liberty many times over. Damn. Now, how did we get this bad? Well, a move away from gold in the 1970s to the printing of fiat money was definitely the biggest reason. And at this rate, it will never, ever be paid back. The only choice is to keep on printing money at a higher and higher rate as the debt increases. We don't want to go too high. We know what happens with hyperinflation, for example, Venezuela. So what can we do about it? Banks can move back to the gold standard, or it's time for Plan B. Sorry, Plan C. Welcome back to Cardano Daily. Oh, wise Charles, show us the way. Actually, I suppose as we're on the topic, tomorrow will be the release of the most significant update ever made to the Cardano ecosystem. It will include major amendments to the code base, an increase in storage capacity on the Cardano blockchain, and is crucial to Project Shelley, which will shift Cardano into a fully decentralized and autonomous network.
Nice.
Well, that was a little different. Moving on to the markets, we can see some green. Oh, it's nice, isn't it? EOS is having a fantastic day. There was lots of scares recently about how the EOS blockchain could essentially shut down because EOS node holders were doing so at a loss, and anything under a $4 EOS was not profitable for them. It's currently $2.35 even with this pump. But what this can show you is that sometimes when the negativity is extremely high, it can be not financial advice, but an interesting investment to make. Ooh. Sometimes it's not the best of ideas. So at the start of my day, in preparation for a video, I will check out 3 or 4 trusted news websites, get some ideas about what's happening in the market, and then inevitably I will go over to Reddit, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrency primarily, and then I'll get pretty down. I won't want to make a video. It's just so depressing. But then I get quite happy because I enjoy people's misery. Just joking. Or am I? The thing is, the more depressed we get, the better point we happen to potentially be in this chart. Wouldn't it be nice if this little pump today was just the start of this disbelief suckers rally? If we extrapolate CoinMarketCap's price on the 7-day price graph, it matches beautifully. Probably just a short squeeze though. There are plenty of examples of this. Liquidated short on Ethereum, $7.5 million worth. Damn. It's pure euphoria for shorters of the market right now. And yeah, there's plenty of examples of big squeezes happening. 4.1 million, 2.7 million, 4.3 million. So with trading volume so low, and for reference, a $4 billion trading volume for Bitcoin is quite low. And we know a lot of that is actually spoofed. So it doesn't take much money to cause 5% swings either way at these levels. Now, do you remember during the time of 6K consolidation, while we were just going flatlining, we would occasionally see these lines go up, sideways, down, sideways, up, and so on and so forth. That was most likely futures trading, but I don't know. I'm prepared for another violent shakeout either way. But if you are still here, if you are holding Bitcoin, if you are watching this video, then there's something that I would want you to understand, and I think it's necessary for everyone that holds Bitcoin to understand this, and that is perspective. You need to have perspective. It is actually harder than it seems. If you've been researching cryptocurrencies every single day for a year or more, like myself, it's easy to think that cryptocurrency is bigger than it actually is. The market cap is 110 billion. Seems like quite a lot. At its peak, it was over 800. That's a lot. But the actual amount of fiat involved in cryptocurrency is way, way less than that. So this whole thing, this whole experiment is still in its infancy. You can have the opinion of being a bear short term. That might be a good idea. But long term, that's like calling the future. It's like predicting it, and it's gambling. Now, I'm not saying it's not gambling to invest in cryptocurrency right now. Of course it is. We might never have another bull run. But either way, it's gambling to assume that things are going to go down or things are going to go up from here. Why don't we just take some perspective here? Ultimately, no matter how bad you think things are right now, logarithmically speaking, Bitcoin has been incredible. Whether or not these lines hold true for the future almost doesn't matter at this point. Bitcoin has been incredible even until today's date. After all, you could have been holding gold for the last 10 years. Think about that. The fact is, Bitcoin is more scarce than any other asset in history, more transferable than any other asset in history, and can obtain a role as money faster than any other asset in history. It is my belief that within the next 5 years, 2023, 10% of the population will hold Bitcoin. That would be way more than currently. We're less than 1%, I believe. To some extent, and Bitcoin will be globally poised to adopt the role of money. It may not happen, but if it does, it will seem obvious to onlookers that it occurred the way it did. 15 years is more than enough time for a new technology to gain broad adoption. In fact, if it takes longer than 15 years, that would be considered abnormal in the age of the internet. The only thing that can stop Bitcoin's adoption would be the world's central banks returning to a gold standard, because that would kill the store of value use case that Bitcoin offers over fiat. You see that little tie-in to the beginning of the video. The title of this post is The Inevitability of Bitcoin. It is linked below.
You hear that, Mr. Anderson? That is the sound of inevitability.
I don't understand the bear euphoria that's taken over many people, even YouTubers, even people I used to respect the opinion of. If you are now super bearish and you weren't 12 months ago, is that not emotional trading advice? Like, I don't understand it. I think we all need perspective. Moving on to today's biggest news story. There's not a lot, I'm going to be honest with you, but I find anything to do with Bitmain very interesting. Hong Kong exchange hesitant to approve Bitmain IPO, says source. If you weren't aware, Bitmain are the largest Chinese mining company, but they're much more than that as well. Bitmain is the biggest and most profitable company in the history of the cryptocurrency sector by a long shot, and even one of the most profitable companies on the earth. For example, in Q1 2018, they made over $1 billion profit, more than double NVIDIA, which was the world's leading graphics card producer. So then why would they go ahead and sell their company in shares? That's an interesting question. There is no particular answer. I think there's a few possibilities, but in order to understand them, we need to rewind the clocks back to 2015. So around this time, Bitcoin scaling solutions were raging. Something had to be done, but consensus could never be reached because the miners would never agree on anything. And back then, Bitcoin was very much hash power equals votes. That's how it works. And SegWit was a popular solution because it hit two birds with one stone. Number one, it solved the problem of scaling somewhat. It was a scaling solution, but most importantly, number two, it allowed further second layer scaling solutions to be implemented because SegWit contained a fix for a little bug that was in the Bitcoin code known as transaction malleability. Win-win for everyone then, right? Well, not so for the miners. If SegWit was adopted onto Bitcoin, it would hurt Bitmain's mining profitability by up to 30%. They weren't going to stand for that. So every time it was proposed, it was rejected, and nothing could achieve consensus. Bitcoin couldn't scale. That was until mid-2017. Bitcoin now has SegWit, but it required a threat, a user-activated soft fork movement to just say, you know what, miners, we don't care. Us, the users, we're going to do it. It was a great showing of solidarity and the power of the users of Bitcoin. We got it pushed through. And then Bitmain responded by forking Bitcoin, by creating a new version that doesn't have SegWit. And they were of the opinion that with all the resources that they've amassed, they could make this new chain kill the SegWit chain. Now, I know that that sounds pretty negative and, you know, why would you support something like that? But I have come to terms with the fact that pro-choice is something good for this market. There are people out there that don't like Bitcoin, but they do like Bitcoin Cash. And if there was no Bitcoin Cash, they might not be involved in cryptocurrency. I don't know how many of them there are, but I think choice is good. Anyway, fast forwarding back to today, why an IPO? Regulatory legitimacy, probably the most likely candidate. They don't want the Chinese government to suddenly say Bitcoin mining is illegal now. And if the company is a legally traded entity, that's less likely to happen. Option number 2 is that they just want more firepower, or it's a combination of 1 and 2. There's an interesting research post about how it could be a strategy by Bitmain to consolidate power even further by selling miners at a loss, pricing out all competitors. Or third, which is quite the opposite of 1 and 2, which is that with Q2 2018 financial losses being reportedly up to $700 million, Q3 to be projected to be just as bad. You don't even want to talk about Q4 with the hash wars. But Bitmain at one point in time had accumulated over 1 million Bitcoin Cash tokens through a combination of mining and purchasing. They have now lost 98% of their value from the all-time high, which is really an incredible number. Bitcoin hasn't done as well, but it hasn't done that badly. So the main takeaway from this story, I think, then is this. Bitmain is either preparing an exit strategy. I think the whole landscape of Bitcoin would be better without them. But either that, or they're having it just there, just in case Bitcoin continues to fall, maybe to a point where they're no longer making any profit whatsoever. It kind of reminds me of the BitConnect X ICO, where they did one last final push to grab some money before they left. Absolutely disgusting, but leaving bags with the investors. Or Bitmain is going to be one of the best investments we could make in any company of late. I guess it all depends on what Bitcoin is going to do. Thank you very much for watching, though. I appreciate you still being around here, still supporting me, still being in the game. I think you'll be rewarded in the future. But of course, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantee that there will be another bull run. But just in case there is, just in case Bitcoin is the future, away from this huge debt machine that is printing money, I'm going to be involved. Are you going to be? Let us know. And I'll see you in the next one.